Hey friends, today on Gardening with Creekside, I am going to give you an update on the dahlia garden, and we are going to add additional irrigation to this space. We'll do a little garden tour of some surrounding gardens here. A lot of activity happening, so if you hear equipment, just know I have got my main teen helper back there. Jackson is helping me, not helping me, he is actually doing it completely on his own, mulching around the maple tree and the beautiful holly trees that we have back there. And then Jerry is also working on the chicken coop space. All those details will be, and updates will be coming very soon, I promise, because y'all been asking about that. But so yesterday, my mama and I worked here in the dahlia garden. We did not get exactly finished what I wanted to. So I was like, hey, great opportunity to bring you along, and I will finish up this project and to give you an update because you have been asking about how the dahlias are doing. Remember, last year, it was exactly almost a year ago that my friend Laura from Garden Answer sent me a massive box of some of her dahlia tubers. Got them in the ground. Y'all, I was looking at that video, and that was the video published on June the 6th of last year. So not even a full year ago. That, looking back, was very late getting these dahlias in the garden, in the ground. That's why I think we kind of struggled a lot last year with them. And I didn't give a whole lot of updates on the dahlia garden just because it didn't look good. And the flowers were beautiful, but I didn't take care of it the way I should have. And I learned a lot. And honestly, I was just embarrassed to show it to you. But this year, we're doing so much better this year. So I'm going to bring you along for the journey and just give you an update. We have 3 beds here, and everything that you see in here are dahlias. And the nice tall ones on the far side of the bed are all the ones from Laura. So I was just telling my mom, I was like, Mama, you know, last year these were not even in the ground yet, and then this year we have already got flower buds. There are a lot of the dahlias that have buds on them. Not all of them, but a good number of them do. They are doing really, really well. The ones that you see on this side of the bed, the smaller ones, are ones that I put into the ground this year. Because if you've ever grown dahlias and you've had at least a couple of pretty blooms on it, you know how absolutely addictive these plants are. So last fall, I ordered a lot of dahlias, way too many dahlias. You saw me put them in the ground. I showed you when I put these in the ground, and I mean, they are doing phenomenal. I've been really, really happy with them. And I have not even, we've just now turned on the irrigation in the last week or so because we got hot and dry. But look at this. Look at that beautiful, nice new growth. These are the ones, of course, that I'm talking about on this side. The far side are still Laura's dahlias, but really happy with them. I have really been very kind of hands off with them, left them alone. They have done great. So I just wanted to come and give you an update on these. Those of you that were asking about how we handled Laura's dahlias, we are in North Carolina. We are Zone 7B. Our winters are not going to be too cold. That was not my concern. My concern was our winters are historically wet, and would these tubers rot in the ground? Life happened and they didn't get dug up. And it wasn't that I wanted to dig them up because I was afraid of them. We were gonna rework this area, but now we figured out how we're gonna hopefully at some point get to it and rework it because we want to add beds to this space. Laura's tubers stayed in the ground all winter long. I did nothing special to them whatsoever. I just came and checked them periodically throughout the winter because I knew where the tubers were. So I pulled back some soil, checked them. They were nice and firm. We only lost a handful of dahlias over the winter. I think that's a highly successful winter when you have never grown dahlias before. And honestly, I did not know anything what I was doing. I just watched videos, Laura's videos, and then read about some dahlias, but had never had hands-on experience. So this is an update on the dahlia garden, doing really nice. I mean, look at some of these, how tall they already are. Is that not just magnificent? Love it. And again, they are have tons of buds all over them. Look at that sweet little thing right there. I love it. The main upkeep that I have found with dahlias is two different areas of quote concern that you have to be kind of vigilant about. One, weeding. Now, that's not anything just specific to dahlias. That happens to all gardens, right? We have to stay on top of the weeding. Yesterday, my mom and I came through here and weeded all 3 beds. They were not horrible because I had done that prior to planting this year's dahlias. It wasn't horrible, but it did need to be done. So now we are weed free and doing great. The other more constant maintenance quote on the dahlias is staking them and making sure that they have the support that they need to grow nice and straight and tall. That is where I severely messed up and just completely missed the mark last year on growing my dahlias, because even though I had the string up, I wasn't vigilant about making sure that they were nice and tight and straight, and I had a lot of the dahlias fall over in heavy winds, and then they just started growing. If you've ever grown dahlias and they get knocked over and you don't get them immediately, they'll lay down and then they just start growing up. So they have this lovely 90-degree angle. They don't really care. They'll still keep blooming, but you don't get nice straight stems for your flowers for doing vases and arranging. This year, I have been so impressed with these dahlias because, I mean, they are straight as an arrow. Everybody is nice and straight. We got massive winds, a huge storm earlier this week. And some of my plants, like my roses, because my roses are just, you know, what, I don't know, 20 yards away from me, loaded with blooms, and some of them got really pushed down and smashed open, like they just got, the microburst of the wind just came down and pushed them down. But the dahlias back here are just doing great. So very happy with that. Come along, and so we have one more row right here that I need to restring, and that is, the string is already there. I just like to make sure that it's nice and tight in the appropriate places, and then go ahead and catch some of these dahlias, because the dahlias have just been growing. I have not caught them with the twine and done that. So Mom and I did the first 2. We didn't get to this one, and then we're gonna extend the irrigation. So we're gonna do that all together, you and me, today. So let me just show you first. We're gonna do this, the first things first is we're going to restring this. So you can see we just use, it's a black twine. It's like a black braided twine. I'm not really even sure where I got it from. I think Jerry got it for me, but you just want a really nice, strong twine. There is no stretch in this. It is very durable. This was last year's and it is still in great shape. So all I have to do right here is untie this and then restring it and make sure it's nice and tight. Because what I want to do is I want to come back and be able to catch and support these dahlias that are nice and tall. Some of my dahlias are going to be more on the short side, but I just want to come in and catch these guys so that when we do, it's not if, but when we get some wind, they stay nice and strong. So I'm going to show you how I do that. All right, now I'm just going to preface this and say that by no means am I a dahlia expert. So there are probably a million different ways that you could do this, or maybe even a million better ways that you could do this. What we did is we just have these metal fence posts every, I believe it's like 6 feet throughout the flower bed. And then I have, like I said, the black twine, the braided rope that I use. I have to vary the levels of it as far as the height of the different strings based on like from year to year. So this one, and I really do like 3, possibly 4 rows of it. You're just trying to keep them nice and secure so that if wind comes along, which it will, that it gives them something to hold on to so that they don't flop over, because one, they could snap, or 2, they just lay down and then it's very hard to get them to come back up. So basically it's just really simple. On one side, I bring the string on this side, then the next row up, I take it on the other side. Whatever you want to use, like if you have like a dahlia garden like this, then this kind of makes the most sense. But dahlias are great to add to your garden, like in singles. If they're tall, then they're gonna need support. If they're short, then they're not gonna need support. But you could use like tomato cages. Of course, they make the different rings that you can put around them to hold on to them. You could put them up against like an obelisk or a trellis and then support them that way. Just kind of have to play with it and see what works best for you. So it worked really great yesterday having 2 people doing this. I'm running solo, so I have it kind of low, and then I'm just gonna bring it in, and I'm not gonna make it super, super crazy tight because of the existing dahlias that are there. And then I know that I counted because there's little notches on here. So I counted up, I was on 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I bring it, that way my string is level, bring it around, and then gently try to snug everybody in and without snapping anybody, right? So we just want to give that little bit of support, nice and tight. And then I'm just going to move on down the line, keeping it 6 notches up. And there are some new ones on this side that are nice and short, so obviously it's not gonna, the twine is not gonna catch them. But down there on the end, I have some taller ones, so it'll catch those. All right, so first rung is done, and you can see, yes, it pulled this one. I'm gonna pull this little guy out. These guys are nice and secure. They'll come back up. That's the great thing about dahlias, as they grow for the sun. So they will straighten up and go up. So yes, it looks like I'm cinching them in a little bit too much right now. I promise they will be okay in the long run, and it will be better for them. This is a shorter variety, this dark one, but still support is a good thing. So now I have the next string, and I'm gonna go probably another 6 notches up, but I'm gonna go on the other side and wrap those and catch those dahlias on the other side of the string. I got the 2 strings on the bottom. They're all nice and secure. I don't have any that need to go in on this top one, so we'll just wait on that. I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so we'll just wait a little bit. I might go ahead, no, I'm gonna wait. So this is the thing, going back and forth on staking your dahlias and supporting them. It can be a little bit tricky in the fact of, you know, they're not quite tall enough to hit that next one. So do you wait? Do you go ahead and add another string? It's all up to you on how you do it. So they are strung up. Now, what we're gonna do is I have irrigation running down each one of these 3 beds. But because, so the irrigation is on the currently my side of the bed, and that is not enough to hit both of these rows of dahlias. So what I'm going to do is connect into the existing irrigation and run another line up the new side of the dahlia bed. Super, super easy. I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. All right, so I just decided to pop a squat right here beside the end of the dahlia bed because this is where kind of the action is going to happen, and I can explain everything. We have, like I said, irrigation coming down through here. We use the brown drip tube. So this is a nice permanent, like it is not tape, it is an actual irrigation tube that works really well. You can get emitters, different spacing between them. This is every 12 inches. So this is what we're using here. I do have a couple other rolls that are like 18 inches. You can get some that are smaller, like closer together. For us, because we do have red clay soil, I do not need to like put a ton of water on this bed. If I do, my dahlias could rot. That being said, dahlias need nice, slow, really deep watering. Swan Island has a great informational page that you can go there and read as far as like care of dahlias, but they say hand watering rarely works with dahlias because it's just not enough. It's a surface watering, but not that really nice, deep, penetrating to the roots. The drip tubing will do that for you. It can be that nice, long watering, and you can set your timer, your irrigation timer, for however long you need, maybe 3 days a week, right? So you just kind of have to play around with the watering. That is one thing that people always ask us, like, how much do I need to water? It's very hard for us to tell you that because of your soil, your climate. Is it on a slope? Is it in a low spot? Is it really, are you in a windy, dry area? Are you in a humid area? So that's where you just have to become a student of your own garden and kind of figure it out for yourselves. What I have is a roll of, the brand is Rainbird. We just go to one of our local landscape supply companies, even like the big box stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, they sell irrigation supplies. So you should be able to find, if not this specific brand, the same type of product at a local, like I said, kind of hardware, big box store, whatever you want to call them. Definitely a landscape supply company where they sell irrigation supplies. So this is Rainbird. It is going to be a 12-inch spacing on those emitters, and it is almost a gallon per hour. So that is the emission rate on this. This roll is 250 feet long. So that gives you that. So you need to have that. Next, you need to have what we call landscape staples. These are called irrigation staples. Basically what they are your nice metal stakes, right? And then they have a hook on the end. So once you lay your tube here, you bring it down and you put it, and it holds it in place. That way it doesn't go every which way, and there you go. This is an 11 gauge. Again, order it, get it at your landscape supply company, your irrigation supply. Now, because I am in the business that I am in, and I am constantly in the garden, and sometimes I may nick a line and have to repair a line, or it's like this and I'm here adding to it. So I have a handy dandy little, it's a Craftsman toolbox. This is my irrigation supply box, and in it is all the supplies that I need for my irrigation. I keep it in Johnny underneath one of the seats, and that whenever I need it, I can pull it out. So in here I have got tees. I have got just little couplers. That is what I'm going to use today to join two of the tubes together. So I have that. Over here I have elbows. Got those little elbows. I've got emitters in here. Everything that I could ever need. My sweet boy Josh took care of me and got this all together because I get frustrated when I'm looking for something and I can't find it. If I need to put an emitter in, I've got my punch. He gave me some electrical tape. I've got a screwdriver in here, all sorts of great supplies. And then down in the bottom, I have more tees, elbows, and then I have some of our drip tube that we use for the hanging baskets. So he really hooked me up and took care of me. So if you have irrigation and you're constantly, having to either add to it or you're managing it, which if you have irrigation, you're doing that, maybe come up with something like this that is easy, that you can grab. All your tools are in one spot. Now, with that being said, what we're going to do is simply take this pipe and tie into the current existing irrigation, and then run the line back up and cap it off at the end. Very simple. So let me get everything together and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Okay, so we got everything together. I just unwrapped my tube. Here we go. Took the stakes out of this existing one. So this existing one is all wrapped up in electrical tape. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take my clippers and just cut that. You can tell we've been watering because we got a little water in the line. Now this is the quote hardest part of the whole entire job, is taking my couplers and putting it in both of the tubes, because I am not complaining, but it is a beautiful, I say this as a gardener, you understand. It is a beautiful cloudy day here, and the temperature is nice and cool. And this is where you have to finagle and get the coupler in here. If it's warmer and the tubing has more wiggle room to it, then that certainly helps. And I'm gonna turn over because, all right, here we go. So I am just gonna wrestle this coupler onto both ends of the tube, and then I'll meet you back here. It's probably not gonna be very attractive, so I'll just take my word for it. I'm gonna get this in here. Okay. All right, I think I got it. So basically, the coupler just joins the two pipes together, right? So you're not having to start a brand new line all together. So we just tie it in together. Now, I'm gonna take this roll. Again, it would be easier if I had another person with me. I don't, but that's all right. We can handle this. Brenna, she's here for my emotional support. I'm just gonna take it and run straight down to the other end, and then I will come back and stake everybody in. That way, the second row of dahlias gets water. So we're gonna do that and then go do the other two, and then I'll meet you back here. So today's project is complete with the dahlia garden, and I feel very accomplished. It feels fantastic to have all those extra dahlias in the ground. Mimi and I did that yesterday. It is weeded, did yesterday. Irrigation is all installed. Everybody is currently staked up as best they can be. That will be something that I have to maintain as the dahlias grow. I can do that. And the irrigation is on and running. So that would be my recommendation, is that when you install irrigation, go ahead and send it for a test run, right? Everybody is nice and connected and doing quite well. So you can see the connection right there, and the water is dripping. So we can come over here and you can see that it is nice and dripping and doing quite well. I just simply took it and ran it all the way up as close to the dahlias as I can. That is the beautiful thing about this drip tube, is that next year, if I need to move it a little bit, it is not a problem. It is super flexible and I can move it as needed. But the dahlias are getting a nice drink of water. I don't have to run this really long for today, because when I was planting my extra dahlias yesterday, the soil is nice and moist and damp. So I'll just run it for a little bit to make sure everybody is well watered and snugged in, and then there you go. The only other thing that I would say about dahlias is that I learned from Swan Island, the number one pest, or I wouldn't say the number one pest, a very problematic pest for dahlias are snails and slugs, because they will chew on the leaves and put holes into your leaves, especially when they are emerging. They love all that brand new tender foliage. So you probably want to go ahead and treat for that. The easiest way, the safest way, is using a snail and slug bait. It is organic. I get mine from Amazon. This is the brand that I use. We'll throw up a picture of it. But it is little pellets, and I just go out and just kind of broadcast it in the bed about every 2 weeks. I have to do it about every 2 weeks because we get consistent rain, and the rain over time will break it down. Highly effective. So it is safe for, it is OMRI listed, safe for organic gardening, safe around, you know, children and pets and all that stuff. Basically, the snails and slugs are attracted to it and they eat it, and it causes them to die. I use it in my shade beds, anywhere that snails and slugs could be a problem. My hostas have been beautiful the last 2 years because I faithfully use this, and I just have it on Amazon. I have a subscription to it, so it just arrives every, I think, every month or every 2 months, and just knock it out. So you're going to want to treat your dahlias for that, especially if you have snail and slug issues and you want to have nice pretty foliage and you don't want to have holy foliage. Yeah, so that is the finale for the dahlias for today. As soon as I start to get flowers, of course, I will let you know and keep you updated on that. Give you a little update here with Jackson and what he got done. So this whole bed right here is now mulched. It looks wonderful. We are going to continue it over here. However, we're going to turn these into some flower beds with some annuals. We have a special project that we are working on, so there's no point in adding the mulch here right now until we get that whole little project done, and then of course we will extend that mulch so that it looks really nice and does well. But everybody here is doing quite nicely. This is the star magnolia that you remember I planted late winter, early spring when it was blooming, beautiful pure white flowers on it. And then our Nellie Stevens hollies are doing quite nicely, putting on lots of beautiful, see all that nice bright growth on it, doing really nice. And then Jackson did go ahead, because my jonquil bulbs are in here. You saw Jerry and I plant those in the fall, and they did great. My foliage had died back and was dying, so I told Jackson, I said, just cover it up with the mulch. It'll be fine. They'll emerge in the spring and be glorious. And then of course we're just waiting on the phantom hydrangeas in here to bloom this summer. And then way back in the back is the Amsonia. Now, to give you an update on the chickens, because a lot of people have been asking about that. Yes, we still have the chickens. They are doing great. They are growing like weeds. No, we do not have the new chicken coop up. It is here. We have to assemble it. Jerry was working on it, of course, leveling out that land. So what they're doing is they are hanging out in the old chicken coop. So we got it all gussied up for them, nice and snug, and they are hanging out there. We have a project that we are working on this week, something big coming up that we really have to focus on. And so I told Jerry, I said, after this passes and we're done, chicken coop numero uno. I don't care what happens. We've got to get that up. We've got to get those chickens out of there and into here, into the new coop, because they are growing. They're very happy in there, but you know, it's time. It's enough. And so slowly but surely we will take you along for that journey, of course, when the whole process of getting that coop together and getting the girls moved in there. As always, thank you so much for gardening with Creekside. I hope you have found this fun, informative, and inspirational. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.